Good morning, Periscope. This is Antoinette Awoshika. I am a massage therapist. The name of my company is Performance Therapy Massage, and I've been a therapist for 6 years. What I'm going to talk about today is disadvantage, or the notion of disadvantage. So my title is As Long as You Have Breath in You, There Is No Disadvantage. This came about from a conversation with my son. Good morning for all the people who are joining. If you like what you're hearing, then tap the hearts. But this came about from a conversation that I had with my son. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And so we were talking, and we were talking about his future and what he wants to do. And oftentimes, as children, depending on if you're a child that comes from a two-parent family, if you are a certain race, if you live in a certain area, good morning everyone who's joining, um, you are placed in a box. You're placed in certain boxes of either you will succeed or you will not succeed, or you will succeed but you will have a hard time. And as we were having our conversation, I realized that as long as you have breath in you, there is no disadvantage. And I say that because disadvantage is a mindset. It's a mindset. And I've seen people who have no legs. I've seen people who have no legs, no arms, no teeth, and they are multimillionaires. Why? Because of the mindset. So I'm going to be looking down, and all I'm doing is I'm just referring to my notes. So my first thing is disadvantage is a lie. And I say that because as long as you have breath in you, there is no disadvantage. There are people, and we've all seen them, or at least we've all seen someone that came from a situation that was horrible, whether they were homeless, they were born to an unwed mother, and here they are. They're millionaires. Here they are. They have gone to college. They have done whatever it is that they set their mind to. They have done it. They have done it. So my first point is disadvantage is a lie. It is a lie because we all come into this world with strengths, weaknesses, and challenges, but it is up to us as individuals to overcome those things. Because when we're born, we don't know the parents we're going to have. We don't know the families that we're going to be born into. We don't know what family situation or dynamic, you know, that we were born into that will impact our lives. And so when we're children, we have no choice over the situation. But as we grow into adulthood, the decisions that we make will create the life that we want. So, like I said, first point, disadvantage is a lie. My second point is, and I say disadvantage is a lie, and I've just wrote down some points. The first one is people say you're disadvantaged if you come from a so-called broken home, because they think, well, if you don't have two parents, or if your parents didn't raise you, or if a family member didn't raise you, whatever their definition of a broken home is, surely you cannot survive. And I'll give you an example. Simone Biles, she is a gymnast. She's on the Olympic team. She is phenomenal. She was born to a mother who had some issues. So her grandfather raised her. He raised her, he loved her, he nurtured her. She is phenomenal on the gymnastic scene, but from everything I hear about her, she's just a phenomenal person, period. But all the announcers could talk about was, oh, she's disadvantaged, she's from a broken home. They put her in this box, and they wanted to keep her in this box. And it just occurred to me, here she is. She has won, I believe, every single category for gymnastics that she's been in. But all they can focus on is the fact that she wasn't raised by her mother and her father in a house with a white picket fence. So has she allowed, and I'm sure she's heard that in her entire life, has she allowed those statements to influence her, as most of us do, I myself, I do it, then she would have never been a world-class gymnast. She would have never had the discipline and the courage to face what she's facing head on. She would have just been stuck in this mindset. I wasn't raised by both my parents. I come from a broken, I don't even have a home. I'm just broken. But she rose above it. And the other thing is, disadvantage is a mindset. It's a mindset. So if you don't have the mindset, other people will attempt to put that mindset on you. And what they will do is they will remind you you're from a quote unquote third world country. You didn't have all the opportunities that a child born in the United States had. Your parents are immigrants. The list goes on and on and on. And I'm going to try to stick to my notes. You're from a low income background. And what it is a mindset of lack. Because when you're a child, you're a sponge. So if you tell a child early on, and I can only speak from what I've experienced, you're black, you're dark skinned, your family is, you're not American, all these things, it creates an inferiority complex. And so here you are, you're an amazing child, but already this inferiority complex it's constantly being put in you. And as children, we're sponges, we soak everything in, we internalize everything. So then you begin to self-sabotage, because even though you know you're great, you feel it inside you, you're constantly bombarded with the things that you're not, the things that you don't have, the things that you supposedly should have. And I'm just here to tell you, there are people, and I'm all over the place with my notes, but it's a false upper hand, and it's a false security for the people who convey such messages. And it is bullying. It's emotional bullying, because what they're doing is they want to feel better about themselves. They want to feel better about their situations. They love to tear down people, even small children, because then when you tear someone down, you can say, "Oh, you poor thing, let me help you." And they're not helping you. So it is the notion of disadvantage. It's a false upper hand and a false security to those who want to put you in that mindset. And what it also does is it turns into paralyzing procrastination and fear. Because once you start to focus on all the things you don't have, all the things you supposedly don't have, you procrastinate and you get stuck in fear. Because how dare you dream? How dare you aspire to be something other than this mindset that has been heaped upon you? How dare you exceed that? How dare you go beyond that? Because remember, you come from a broken home. Your family doesn't have a lot of money. You are from a certain place. English is not your first language. And what it does is it paralyzes you, and you begin to self-sabotage. And fear develops. And once fear develops because you keep making the same mistakes, you keep failing. So now you're afraid to dream, you're afraid to do anything, and you accept mediocre as your permanent address within your mind. You accept that you're never going to be anything and you're never going to do anything, because that's what people are telling you when they tell you all the things that you're not. Okay? But what I'm saying is disadvantage is a lie. Because as long as you have breath in you, there is no disadvantage. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it around. And I'm speaking, this is for anyone who is listening, and this is also for me, because so many times we're told lies and we have to turn those lies around. So the first thing is, whatever you don't have, you can get. Whatever you don't have, you can get. When I was in high school, we had this man come in. He was a motivational speaker for students. And he said, I am somebody, if I believe it, I can achieve it. Beside him was a young man he was mentoring. Every girl in there was like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. He was handsome. He was well put together. And you would have thought that he came from a loving 2-parent home, picket fence, and that was the opposite. He was a foster child. His foster mother thought him to be unworthy, so she locked him in the basement, barely fed him, and he had nothing to bathe with. He did not bathe. So his skin literally shed. His entire skin shed. That was his circumstance. Those were the circumstances. That's how he grew up. But he didn't stay there. He didn't allow the fact that he had no mother, he had no father, he had no family members around him. The person that was paid by the state to take care of him had him locked in the basement, and he couldn't even bathe, barely fed him. That is a stark contrast from the young man that I saw in front of me, well put together. So whatever he did not have, he worked hard to get it. My other thing is, whatever you don't have, you can ask someone to help you. And that's what he did. He had to reach out for help. He had to reach out for help. And sometimes we won't reach out for help, but guess what? Someone will offer us help. They'll see you struggling and someone will offer you help. And you can take the help. There's a young man from Australia. He was born with some fingers and one toe and his torso. That's all he has. He is a multimillionaire. He is a motivational speaker. He is married and he has a son. By all stretches of the imagination, no arms, no legs, only fingers and one toe. He should not be a multimillionaire. He should not be a motivational speaker. But he is. He should not be married, but he is. He should not have a son, but he does. Now, he defies all the odds. Why? Because he did not allow himself to be placed in the box of disadvantage. You poor thing. You poor thing. He didn't do it. There is no guarantee that coming from a 2-parent home, living in a certain area, having money, access to a certain lifestyle or amenities will make your life or anyone's life turn out great. There's no guarantee. There is absolutely no guarantee. Because on the flip side of that, we have people that have come from 2-parent homes that drove BMWs as teenagers, and they've done the most horrific things. Where you are born, the family that you are born into, has nothing to do with it. Where you're from has nothing to do with it. There are no guarantees. Does it make it a little bit easier in some instances? Absolutely. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the defining factor is you and your mindset. Where is your mindset? What do you think of yourself? What do you believe your capabilities are? That is what it all boils down to at the end of the day. And are you willing to work? Are you willing to work for the life that you want? Are you willing to work to make your dream a reality? And I say this too, and I'm saying this because I had this conversation with my son a month ago. I have had these limiting mindsets, and I've allowed them to hold me back. And what I am realizing is disadvantage is a lie. It's a lie. It is an absolute lie. It's something set forth to paralyze you. It's a lie. So, what am I doing about it? I'm pushing through my fears. And that's what we all have to do. Pushing through our fears. Both my parents are not from America. My dad is Nigerian. My mother's Jamaican. I was made fun of by my family members on my mother's side for being half Nigerian. I don't know any family members outside of my brothers and sisters on my father's side. In school, I was made fun of, and I was a child of the 80s and 90s. And so, in the 90s, there's like everything that happened was a Jamaican person. So there was always, those Jamaicans. And then people would ask me, do you smoke marijuana? Do you sell marijuana? No, we don't all smoke marijuana. We don't all sell marijuana. Or, you're African and you're Jamaican. Your family must do voodoo. So there was that already starting. Okay? And, single parent. My mother was a single parent. I knew my father. I know my father. He's always been in my life. But there was that, I wish I had the two-parent home. Fast forward, I am the mother, and I am not married. And that was huge. Like, I can't even explain how huge it was. And again, limiting mindset of disadvantage. Because they were always portray single mothers as being on welfare. I'm not on welfare. And if there is a single parent who is on welfare, I tell you this, do not be ashamed. It is better for you to accept help, accept public assistance, than to sit there and allow your child to starve. It is better for you as a single parent, whether you're male or female, if you do not have the money to purchase groceries. It is better for you to accept assistance. That's why it was put into place. That's why it was put into place to help. Don't allow it to be a crutch. But if you need money to feed your child, yes, feed your child. Feed yourself. You don't eat, you don't live. So again, all these stories, all these scripts of disadvantage, nothing but fear breeding paralysis. And we need to turn it around. Me pushing play on Periscope is turning it around. Me saying what I'm saying is turning it around. Because somebody needs to hear this. As long as you have breath in you, there is no situation, circumstance, obstacle you cannot overcome. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Your parents, your zip code, your birth, none of it matters. Once you set your mind to doing what it is that is in your heart, you will do it. I worked in corporate America for 13 years, and nearing the end, there was no purpose, there was no benefit. So I decided to go to school. And I went to school, I worked during the day, I went to school at night. Not easy. There were times that I wanted to quit, but I graduated. And I graduated with a GPA of 3.5. I wanted to, I've always loved art. I had the opportunity to go and work with a dance company that's worldwide, straight out of school. And as a massage therapist, that's huge. This dance company has been around for 50 years and is world renowned. I set my mind on what is it that I wanted to do. And the other thing is, regardless of the script of disadvantage, once you set your mind to doing something, the opportunities show up. The help that you need shows up. The opportunities and the help that you need show up. And when they show up, it is imperative that you grab them and that you run with them. And that's what I did. I lived in an apartment when my son was born. And after a while, it was like, okay, I'm done with this. I need to find a house. The search took a couple months, but I found a house. 2007. That's when I decided to become a massage therapist. Wanting to go to school, writing down the name of the company, even having business cards printed. I wasn't in school yet, had no company, knew I would be amazing at it, but had no formal training. I had raw talent. But once I formulated that I'm going to go to school, and I executed going to school, everything just started to fall into place. And it wasn't a straight line like this pen. It was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs, sometimes some tears and exhaustion. But I made it, and I didn't do it by myself. I had to have help, tremendous amount of help, to the point where I made it. Had I stayed in corporate America, I would have been miserable. Had I stayed just living in an apartment, I would have been miserable. So I hope this encourages someone. There's a song, and this talks about encouraging yourself. And the line is, as I minister to you, I minister to myself. So I'm ministering to myself as well. I keep hearing people say we only have one life, and it's true. You only have one life. And we should make the best of that one life. So remember, As long as you have breath in you, there is no disadvantage. As long as you have breath in you, there is no disadvantage. 2012, I signed a lease on my current office space. September 1st, it will be 4 years. I didn't have a lot of money. Didn't really have anyone to ask questions about how do you do this, how do you do that, and partly because of my limiting mindset and I guess being prideful and being embarrassed not to ask questions. But I was confident in a shaky way, but I was still, and it wasn't even confidence, let me not lie. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that that's a part of who I am. Naturally is to help, naturally is to teach. And the notion, the thought of being my own boss was so strong that, I just had to go for it. I had to go for it. And it hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been all roses, and I've made mistakes, but I am still here. I'm still here. So, do the work. I did the work. I did the research. And I'm still learning. But as long as I have breath in my body, I am not disadvantaged. As long as you have breath in your body, you are not disadvantaged. It is a mindset. It is a mindset of oppression. It is a mindset of lack. It is a mindset of paralysis and fear. And it will stop you until it strangles every dream, every aspiration, every hope out of you. So remember, you can work and achieve the life that you want, as long as you remember that disadvantage is a lie. I am Antoinette Awoshika, mother, massage therapist, and thank you for your time.